With Brian Windhorst reporting that the Lakers are finalizing a deal for the rest of the season with guard Dion Waiters. Waiters, who had only played in 3 games for the Miami Heat this season, worked out for LA earlier this week. So his arrival comes at a point in the schedule where the team could really use him. You see what's coming up for the Lakers right now. Friday, of course, that's today, against the Bucks. And then they got Sunday at the Clippers. It's a big weekend. LeBron spoke yesterday about the test his team's about to face.
It's a weekend where you can just be like, wow, let's get competitive. It's going to be 2 great competitive games, but to know where we stack up, we know where we know who we are. We know who we are. We know we stack up against the best in the league, no matter who it is, win, lose, or draw. Then the competitive side, Friday night Staples, Sunday afternoon in Staples. You just know it's against the 2 of the best teams in the world. You know, you're going to have it's going to be a good competition.
RJ, you got to think that this is a stretch of the schedule that LeBron and the Lakers has kind of circled going into the season. Like, we've got to do well during this stretch. What do you need to see from him specifically?
Well, he's got to close the gap. If he really wants an MVP, quietly, personally himself, and that's been it. It's been Giannis's to lose. And this is a stretch. You have Milwaukee coming in. Then you have the Clippers. Then you have the Rockets, and then you got Utah twice. If Bron goes out there and plays well, if Giannis gives us 22 points and doesn't play well, doesn't shoot the ball well, Bron goes for a 35-point triple-double, the gap closes. If he goes and does the same thing against the Clippers, same things happen.
Let's go back to the sneaky big news, which is the Dion Waiters piece of this. And I understand people will not look at Dion Waiters and say he should be the one who tilts a championship.
Including myself.
But here's the thing. The Clippers are so deep. We just sat here and talked about how when they're all healthy. So tonight's game should be a great show. LeBron against Giannis and throw Anthony Davis in there against Giannis. That's a great show. But Sunday's game is the one where I think we'll really learn a lot because the Clippers are the team that added Marcus Morris. They're the team that added Reggie Jackson. They were deep and added pieces. The Lakers need pieces. Can Dion Waiters help?
Well, Dion Waiters can help because he's a guy that can create shots off the dribble. That's the one thing that they didn't have. And that's why they picked him over J.R. Smith, in my opinion, is because J.R. Smith is a shooter and they have shooters. This is a guy that you can toss him the ball and he can go score. Now, his decision-making, some of the things that he's done over the past couple of months, couple of years, that's the one question that they have. And their locker room has been so great. Yeah. That's been something that all of their players have been talking about, especially coming off last year with all of the young players and the drama. To have a great locker room, they understand the importance of that. So Dion Waiters has to try and fit in.
You've been in these locker rooms. Is that a thing where LeBron and those guys are like, you know what, our locker room is so strong that it doesn't really matter if this guy doesn't fit, we'll just figure it out? Or do they really think that Dion Waiters fits in their vibe?
Well, I think that no locker room is too strong. Let's look at Antonio Brown and what happened in the Patriots. Like, you could still have someone disrupt the locker, but I think right now his job, and he's kind of on a last leg, they want to make sure that he can get in there, feel comfortable, but they need him to contribute if they're going to win a championship.
Okay, it's going to be an awesome night in the NBA.
Time, including playoffs. Bill Belichick and Tom Brady have won 249 games together, most by a tandem in NFL history. Which coach-quarterback tandem ranks second?
I'm going to go Shula Marino.
That was my guess. I was wrong, and so are you. The correct answer is current. That is really sneaky. Well done. Sneaky Hembo. How close were Shula and Marino, Hembo? How close are they? Really close. They broke their record. Yeah, I guessed Shula. You and I got that one wrong together. That was my guess. All right, that is really sneakily and well handled. Meanwhile, let's talk about Tom Brady because it might be the end of Brady and Belichick. Let's talk about which landing spot situations are best suited for Brady. Neek, what is the best coaching fit for Tom Brady?
I know this sounds crazy because he's won 6 Super Bowls over there with Belichick, but I think the way that Shanahan is able to orchestrate the run, I think it's a better situation. It takes the pressure off of Tom Brady. It only really asks him to make 5 or 6 really important throws throughout the course of the game and be clutch. That's what Brady's good at. It seemed like last season the problem in New England was they were asking too much of Tom Brady. If they expect the same thing, I think it's a bad spot.
Bobby, who was the best O-line for Brady?
And this is paramount because nobody wants to be hit. It's the Indianapolis Colts. They had the 3rd best pass blocking rating in the NFL last year. Tom Brady, not the most mobile guy. I'm not breaking news with that. And so when you see it, hey, can I sit in the pocket? Can we run the football a little bit? And how much am I going to get hit? And can Frank Reich help me with that?
Dominique, which team has the best offensive weapons for
I
Tom
think
Brady?
It's Tampa Bay. They have 2 really great all-pro level receivers. I think that would help Tom Brady a lot. He still has the arm strength, I think, to get the ball down the field. And they have O.J. Howard, who is an awesome tight end, an awesome pass-catching tight end, which we all know Tom Brady does well with tight ends that can get open, because that's when he's made his best career moves, was with guys like with Moss and guys like
Gronkowski.
that guy. I wanted to say Garoppolo. I was like, that's not it.
Where is the best chance for Brady to win a Super Bowl?
Well, to me, it all starts with seeding, and you need to win your division to get a bye. And to get a bye is paramount. You have to play one less game. And if you look at how good Tom Brady has been in the AFC, 17 division titles, 7 times they have been the #1 seed. And that's not just important now, even more because of the 2, because that may be going away. The 1 could potentially be the only bye and the easier path in the playoffs.
You know, I think that all of us look at this thing, and that the primary consideration for Brady has got to be where he can go and win, right? Like, I keep hearing people suggest other things, but at the end of the day, I can't imagine Tom Brady isn't first and foremost thinking, I'm coming back at the age of 43 to keep playing. That has to be #1 on his list, doesn't it? Where can I win?
And we keep talking about all these other teams, but I've spoken to countless execs around the league that still say New England. They still believe at the end of the day he'll be there, because if it's not about money, and he's made a ton of that, then where are you best positioned to win? They feel like New England with that defense in the AFC East, where you always have a few 6 or 7 layups in that division, but there's still that growing suspicion around the league that Brady wants a change. And if he does, a team like the Bucs in another conference with a ton of weapons makes sense.
Winning a Super Bowl would be excellent, but I think that he wants to play well. I don't know that if he gets to next year, they make the playoffs, he has another all-pro level season coming off of 2 seasons, frankly, even when he won the Super Bowl, where he wasn't Brady-level Brady. If he has a season where he makes it to the playoffs and plays well in a couple playoff games without winning the Super Bowl, I think he'd be satisfied with showing the world that he is still the Tom Brady that we want to remember him as.
Okay, when we just went through all of those teams, I want to know from you guys, what is the best fit? Like, what do you think? It's really hard to consider the Patriots if he wants to win a Super Bowl. I know you just named off, the defense, Jeremy, but their O-line, their offensive weapons, almost non-existent. What do you think, Bobby?
And so it's really tough, because you look at this, you can't really envision him outside of that uniform. To me, the Patriots are a couple moves away from being good enough to protect him and giving him weapons on the outside in a weak division. Heck, they almost beat Kansas City this year. They were a Week 17 collapse against Miami from getting the #2 seed, and that was with a dilapidated offense. So I still think it's New England, as weird as that sounds, if they get free agency right.
It's so wild to me that you said a Week 17 collapse against the Dolphins.
I know.
And you said you put that in the argument for that, the Patriots being a positive place to go. Like, it doesn't seem to make sense to me.
Here's where I would back up Bobby on that. They were decimated by injury. Every year there are teams in the NFL whose season is ruined by injury, and they were one of them this year. And also, we cannot forget Antonio Brown completely destroyed their season. You tell me right now, if Antonio Brown played there the entire year, would the Patriots have been in the AFC Championship game against Kansas City toe-to-toe, and we'll see what happens.
It's an entirely different game, because that offense goes from being average to below average to being top tier in the top tier of the league with that defense. But I do think it's not fair for us to overlook that they have some other guys that are coming up on free agency. They have a guard that's on free agency. They have McCourty, who's coming up on free agency. They need to return this team. They also have Slater, I think, is free agency. They need to return this team if they're going to make a run with Brady.
So you know where those guys want to come back? They want to come back to
win. Brady is coming.
And so if Tom, I talked to Devin down there, those guys like, hey, depends on who's on the roster when you're talking to him at the Super Bowl.
Right. There's some issues, though, about the Patriot way. You talk about the contracts. They had a lot of guys up. I was told there were some distractions there. It was not a typical Patriot season inside that locker room. So if the guard is changing, maybe Brady's making a timely move out.
That was a little teaser right there. We're going to have to get back to that a little later. For now, we go to the NBA and some sneaky big news.
We'll ask a series of provocative questions about professional football, and Dominique, whether he wants to or not, is going to answer them. And here is the first. Who is the best replacement for Tom Brady if he leaves New England?
I think it's Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater, by all accounts, is a great team guy. He's the type of guy that fits into the system very well, and he's a smart quarterback who makes kind of risk-averse, smart decisions. He stepped in for another Hall of Fame quarterback in Drew Brees this year and went 5-0 with a team that was fairly well built around him with a very smart coaching staff. I think the same thing exists in New England. They have a smart coaching staff with some talent, not necessarily on offense, but a talented team that can adapt. I think he's the type of guy who's smart enough and conservative enough to fit into that system. And you also hear hear that there could be guys that go back to like Jacoby Brissett, who's a guy who's had experience in that system, but I'm not sure Jacoby Brissett is a step up. I think Bridgewater's slightly better than Brissett.
And you know, the name that you don't hear in that, at least in that little part of it, is the name Ryan Tannehill, and I'm fascinated by that. And Belichick would know Tannehill better than anyone because he has spent so much of his career in the division playing with Miami. And I think people underrate the season that Ryan Tannehill just had. Now, maybe that was a mirage, but that guy played great.
Yeah, I certainly don't underrate the season. I think he had a fantastic season. The problem is, prior to that, he had a lot of mediocre to below average seasons, and you could blame Miami, you could blame a lot of